Hello everybody, it is Mr. Truth here, and in today's video, I'm going to be doing a scouting report / breakdown of LSU Tigers quarterback Jayden Daniels. Now I'm going to give a warning / disclaimer before this video officially begins. This video is merely my opinion, and my analysis on Jayden Daniels goes against what most people, including other content creators on YouTube and the general sports media as a whole, are saying about him. There's a lot of things that I'm going to say in this video that a lot of people might not like. So that's the warning / disclaimer. I want to hear your guys' opinion on Daniels in the comment section and how you sort of project his success going into the NFL and where you guys think he'll end up going in this year's NFL draft class. So without further ado, no more BS, let's get straight into the report. So I want to start with the games that I watched. All the game film I watched, all coming from this year's college football season, versus Florida State, versus Mississippi State, versus Arkansas, versus Ole Miss, versus Missouri, versus Auburn, versus Alabama, versus Florida, and versus Texas A&M. I'm missing 3 games, which is versus Grambling State, versus Army, and versus Georgia State. The reason those games, I did not watch those games on the film, is because those are teams that are dreadful. Those teams are horrible, and they have no NFL caliber talent on them on the defensive side of the football whatsoever. So it's not even worth my time watching it, because he can throw for 18 touchdowns in that game. I wouldn't watch it because those teams don't have any prospects, and they don't have any good defensive talent. So let's get straight into the key upsides of Jayden Daniels' game at quarterback here. Let's get straight into it. I don't really need to mention his elite mobility and speed, but it's literally his main upside, so that's what the first thing I'm going to discuss when it comes to his key upsides of his game. He has elite straight line speed, and he can evade basically anyone. He can even avoid corners and safeties, obviously defensive tackles and ends, and he can avoid the second level, that being the linebackers trying to pursue him. He can get away from all that. He can make moves in the open space. He can make people miss. He's absolutely elite when it comes to scrambling and his mobility. He is the definition of a dual threat quarterback. NFL GMs are going to drool, and they're going to clamor over his speed and his mobility and his ability to avoid people in the open space and make a move and make a play with his feet. That is something that is very wanted by NFL scouts and GMs, especially nowadays, where having a mobile / dual threat quarterback is not a want, it's an absolute need. You need to have somebody who can make a play when the play breaks down in the pocket when it matters the most. And Daniels is definitely a guy who can do that on a consistent basis. He showed it on the game tape, and I absolutely ate it up, and I loved it. Something else that I think is one of his main upsides to his game is his solid deep accuracy. When he was throwing that ball deep down the field, it was a nice, tight spiral, and it was accurate generally, which is really nice. You like to see that. Someone who can take a shot deep and won't miss horribly and will put it on the money where his receiver can make a play on that football. I like that. That translates well to deep ball success over in the National Football League. That is one of his main key upsides of his game, and I loved seeing him sling the pill deep down the field and it lead to a completion or even a touchdown. It was great to witness. And clearly, other quarterbacks, such as C.J. Stroud, have had success throwing the ball deep down the field early in their career. And Daniels might just be another one of those quarterbacks that, are going to take shots deep down the field, but they're going to complete them, and they're not going to end up, in a bunch of interceptions. Another pro of his game would have to be his above-average arm talent. Obviously, he has an NFL-caliber arm. It's not like he has a Kenny Pickett noodle arm. You don't have to worry about him, underthrowing too many passes when it comes to taking a risk deep down the field. So he's got all those bases covered. He's got arm talent. He's got decent deep accuracy, and he's got that elite mobility and straight-line speed to make people miss in the open space. Now, what's not to love about Daniels at quarterback then? Well, that's where all the upsides end, and I need to get to the key downsides of Jayden Daniels' game at quarterback. One of my main cons, if you will, about Daniels at quarterback, not even really a quarterback thing, it's a size thing. His frame is very slender. He definitely needs to put on some weight in the offseason process, and I'm pretty sure whatever NFL team selects him is not going to ask him to do that. They're going to demand him to do that. They're going to say, you're going to put on weight, because if you take a couple big hits, against these big-ass linebackers and these big-ass defensive tackles and edge rushers coming after you and beating you down and making you eat the grass, they're going to get you hurt. So you need to put on some pounds. That's what's going to happen. But the frame is definitely, in my opinion, a concern when it comes to Daniels. I don't want to see this guy getting hurt in like the first 6 weeks, because that would be unfortunate, because I think he does indeed bring a lot to the table. Although there's a lot of negatives here, I do think he brings this an electrifying sort of aura to whatever team is going to pick him. He's a risky pick, but we don't want to see him getting hurt and not living out at his full potential in the NFL. Next, my next key downside, this is a big one. This is one of the biggest issues on game film that I saw of Daniels. He has very mediocre pocket presence and awareness. I didn't like how his footwork sort of just fell apart in the pocket when he was under some duress. And even then, sometimes he felt pressure that wasn't even there, and he rushed the throw, and that meant the accuracy and the ball placement of, the throw was not very good, and that leads to an incompletion or potentially even a turnover, especially in the NFL. Pressure is going to come quicker. You're going to need to throw that football way, way faster than you're throwing it in college. And he did have a lot of time to throw this season, but sometimes he was put under, the heavy pass rush that a lot of other quarterbacks in college football were put under this season. And sometimes he just fell apart. That's one of my main concerns and downsides. He did seem pretty bothered by pressure. When the pressure was coming right at him, sometimes he didn't, know how to respond to it. He didn't know what to do in that scenario, and that really concerns me on, trying to project his success into the NFL. I don't know how that's going to work out. Something else that I saw in the game film that was not very positive, to say the least, was sometimes he was holding on to the ball for too long. That's a major concern. That's a concern that a couple of NFL quarterbacks have, and one of the top prospects in this NFL draft has, Caleb Williams. He does the same thing as Daniels, holds on to the ball for so goddamn long. You gotta get rid of the ball. Sometimes when I was watching this game tape of Daniels playing against whatever team was playing against in the SEC, he was holding on to the ball for 5 seconds in a clean pocket. I was saying, run the goddamn ball or throw the goddamn ball, because you shouldn't be holding on to the ball for 5 seconds in a clean pocket. If there's nothing there, run. If there's something there, make your reads, throw it. This was too much of a concern on the game film. He was holding on to the ball for way too long, and I did not like it one bit. This is my second main concern, this next one. My second main downside to Daniels' game. He has subpar at best ball placement, and that leads to uncatchable passes, not only in tight coverage, but in the open spaces as well. Versus Alabama, which is the game the game film I'm going to show you on the screen as this video plays. There are a lot of throws that are just behind, they're too low, they're too high. The ball placement is not good whatsoever, and that is a cause for concern going into the NFL. That means his completion percentage in the National Football League is not going to be very high his first couple of seasons, which concerns me. It concerns me because at that point, a GM, a coach, and anybody, people on the team are not going to want to deal with him missing these easy passes left and right. Alabama was a very good team this year, obviously. They made the college football playoffs. Arguably, his two worst games, Daniels' worst two games, were against Florida State, a team that almost made the college football playoffs and went undefeated, and then Alabama, who made the college football playoffs and took Michigan, the national champions, to the limit. And he underperformed against both of those teams, in my honest opinion. And that's because his ball placement in both of those games were not very good. And in other games, he showed inconsistency when it came to placing the ball exactly where it needed to be. My main concern, however, the key downside to Daniels' game is his inconsistency when scanning through his progressions. And the fact that sometimes he will lock onto his first read. Oh my goodness. No, this can't happen in the NFL. If this happens in the NFL, he will be benched. He will be benched by the 6th week. He will have double-digit turnovers by the 6th week. This is not good whatsoever. This is something that's going to lead but nothing but negative plays heading into the National Football League, and he needs to clean this up. And I will show you 2 key examples I found on game film, so you know I'm not lying. I'm not just pulling something out of my ass right now. Here you go. One is against Ole Miss and the other one is against, I believe, Arkansas. So here are those two errors on the game film of him not going through progressions or locking on to his first read. Really, really bad stuff from Daniels. This was consistent, but these are two, in my opinion, key examples. One was a turnover, and one should have been a turnover to close the game out. This can't happen in the NFL. It's as simple as that. If it does, he will not last long as a starting QB in the league. One of my other problems with Daniels is he rarely ever slides or protects himself. As the quarterback, you don't want to get goddamn hurt when you're playing because you're the most important player on the field for the offensive side of the football. So if you get hurt, the whole tempo and flow and the rhythm of the offense now gets messed up because the backup's in the game, and maybe the backup doesn't really know the playbook, or he's just not very good at all. And usually that's the case, especially in the NFL, where they can't find good backups in the NFL anymore for some unforsaken reason. Don't know why. But if he goes down, it's going to be bad for the team. And if he goes down, if he gets hurt, it's going to be because he probably didn't slide or protect himself in any way, shape, or form. This can't be happening in the NFL, or he will be injured. And this last one is a nitpick, to be quite honest with you. But he had lackluster college production before his breakout final season, where he threw 40 touchdowns and only a couple of interceptions for the LSU Tigers. But everything before that superstar season that he had this year, everything before that was not very good. It was game manager-esque stuff, and he just didn't really look the part, look like an NFL quarterback. So maybe a one-year wonder, we will see. But my overall player grade for Jayden Daniels, the LSU quarterback, is a mid to late 4th round draft selection. Yes, folks, you heard it here first. I'm going totally against the grain from what I saw, in my honest opinion, on the game tape, on the film. This is 4th round quality play, especially against some of the better teams like Alabama and Florida State that came up on the schedule. He really performed like a game manager, and he did have some nice throws, to open players, especially deep. There, on one of the first plays of the game, offensively against Alabama, he did have one where he threw a post route, he threw a nice hole shot, and it was a great throw and a great touchdown. But other than that, there was really nothing memorable in that game against Alabama. And against Florida State, he really didn't have a first opening game, to be quite frank and honest with you. That's why I have a mid to late 4th round grade on him. His ball placement, his going through progressions isn't good enough. Pocket awareness, his frame, he holds on to the ball for too long. He doesn't slide enough, and his college production was lackluster beforehand. So this was my scouting report on Jayden Daniels. Thank you all for watching. This has been Mr. Truth, and this was nothing but the truth.